Good morning, good morning. I know yesterday Facebook did a update yesterday, so hopefully it'll fix the issues that I've been having. But I'm gonna go ahead and continue. Today is day 38. We're still on fasting. Yesterday I touched on the purpose of fasting, and so today I'm gonna kind of still stick in the same subject, but talk about the results of fasting. So again, I'm going over the definition of fasting. Fasting is the intentional absence from food for the benefits in order to gain spiritual benefits. And I stress the intentional part of it because I've heard some people in the past where they say that they've accidentally skipped a meal or they didn't have time to fast or whatever the reason was, and they call that fasting. But fasting is intentional. Overall, fasting increases your spiritual capacity. A lot of people let me back up. Fasting increases your spiritual capacity. It exerts discipline over your flesh. I've heard, I don't know if you guys are familiar with her, if you guys are familiar with the whole ANWA movement, but, or ANWA Chicago. But there's a prophetess there called Prophetess Keisha Cephas, and she always says that you need to kill the flesh before the flesh kills you. So basically, fleshing, for the most part, it helps you to gain control, helps you to gain discipline over your flesh and the fleshly desires, fleshly carnal mindset. There we go. Fasting brings the flesh under subjection to what the spirit desires. When you fast, your spirit increases its control over your flesh. Basically, your whole being is aligned up to what the spirit wants. One thing I do want to stress, though, fasting does not change God. You cannot use fasting to manipulate God in any way, shape, or form. You can't use any of the spiritual disciplines, prayer, fasting, reading your word, doing good works. You can't use none of that to manipulate God, period. So I just want to stress that fasting doesn't make God work faster or do certain things on your behalf. You can't make God do anything. If anything, fasting changes you. 10 times out of 10, fasting changes you in the process. So I just want to stress here that you really can't, fasting isn't a way to make God do anything. However, you do get God's attention though. So for the most part, the results of fasting pretty much falls into three main categories. Either one of these things will happen or all three of these things. Hearing from God, you receive power from God in some way, shape, or form, and breakthroughs in difficult situations. And again, some of these I touched on yesterday morning. But fasting allows you to hear God, or will help you to put you in a position to receive wisdom, guidance, instruction, strategy, knowledge, understanding from God. So when you fast, and I don't know if this is too bold of a statement, but I'm very positive in this, that when you fast, you will hear from God in some way, shape, or form. And God speaks again, but God speaks in many different ways. So you just have to be open to how he is speaking to you during this time. But when you fast, God is going to speak to you. Typically when people fast, they receive revelation from him that they wouldn't otherwise receive. For instance, I have been praying for clarification on a matter which I'll share later on. I've been praying for clarification for a certain situation in my life that I seem to be not lacking understanding in. I've been praying and a little bit will come, but as soon as I started fasting, God started to download, as you would say, further spiritual insight and clarification into my issue. And I'll share that a little later on, as far as the reasons why that I fast. The second, category of results from fasting is that you will receive power from God. Fasting enables us to receive the fullness of God's power for ministry. And keep in mind, ministry is not strictly related to church. Ministry nowadays can be anything. God can use anything to reach a certain group of people or a certain person. So just keep that in mind. So for God, so when you fast, God is more readily able to use you. And why? Because your flesh is not in the way. As subtle as it is, and it's only subtle because it's natural to us, our flesh can get in the way of God. It gets in the way of God more often than we realize. And so again, fasting pretty much puts your flesh in check. And as I mentioned before, fasting, it adds an extra punch to your prayers. Developing a prayer lifestyle and a fasting lifestyle, it helps you stay consistent with God, helps you stay connected to God, and He's more readily and available to use you in certain situations. And the third category of receiving results from fasting is breakthroughs in difficult situations, which I touched on yesterday. Fasting often brings breakthrough in difficult circumstances or in the lives of those who are resistant to the gospel. So, for instance, again, if you're in this group and you're trying to be consistent with God, you're doing the right things, you're diligent, but you still feel, I guess, you're slamming against the rock all the time, but you know you are doing what you're supposed to be doing. 9 times out of 10, you probably want to add a little bit of fasting in your lifestyle. And I'll touch on the mechanics of fasting Wednesday, as far as the different types of fast and what to expect physically and spiritually when you fast. So overall, the result of sincere fasting and prayer is that God will respond. He will respond. He will bring deliverance and blessing. Ultimately, fasting should bring you closer to God, no matter what you're seeking Him for. Because again, I know some people, they fast for financial breakthrough, which is awesome. People fast for healing. People fast for various reasons. But ultimately, fasting brings you closer to God. It pretty much kind of makes the bond between you two tighter. So when you fast, you are open to Him. Your spiritual capacity to hear from Him and to receive from Him is increased. You're basically, during your time of fasting, you're emptying yourself of your own interests, and you're pretty much letting God have your way, letting God have His way. You're emptying yourself for Him to fill you with Him. So that is pretty much it in a nutshell, but I'm going to share basically why I fast on I fast on once a week, on a weekly basis. And why I fast is because I want to be one of those, as I mentioned yesterday, I want to be one of those people where God can use to pray for somebody and they get healed in the middle of a Target parking lot. I want to be able to give a random person a prophetic word that they've been waiting on for months or weeks, and that's the answer to their prayers, to receive further instructions or guidance. I want to be the one that God is able to use at any moment's notice, no matter where I am. I also know for a fact, and I've known this since I was a little kid, that God's going to use me in deliverance ministry. So I know for me, doing the bare minimum is not going to cut it. I'm going to have to incorporate fasting in my lifestyle, prayer and fasting. I'm going to have to really be diligent in my pursuit of God. I have to stay connected to Him. However, again, I know I won't get there. I know I won't get there doing the bare minimum. I don't think anybody can get far in God doing the bare minimum. It's the whole kingdom principle of reaping what you sow. If you sow minimally, you're going to reap minimally. Garbage in, garbage out, God in, God out. It's just the whole principle of reaping what you sow. And so I've been praying for it to get into that place of God for a very, very, very long time. Probably since the day I've been saved, and I gave my life to Christ when I was like either 11 or 12. So it's a long time. I'm 32. However, this is one of those situations where I just realized today, I realized this year, but it kind of dawned on me. I was preparing my notes for today, that this is one of those situations where God is waiting on me. I received many, 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 many prophetic words this year alone, and this year is not even over with, of God pretty much repeating Himself, telling me to surrender to Him. And again, this is going along the reasons why I'm fasting. I'll get to the point soon. But for the most part, in 2017, this year alone, God has been repeating Himself, surrender, surrender, surrender. And quite frankly, I thought I was surrendering. Turns out my version of surrendering and God's version of surrendering are two different things. So I am, and And as I have been praying and praying, you know, I'm asking God, why am I not seeming to get far along in you? You know, I'm doing the right things. I'm seeking you. I'm praying. I'm going to church. I'm serving. I'm doing everything I know I'm supposed to do. But why does it seem like I'm not getting nowhere in you? So I've been praying and praying and praying. I've been getting a little, you know, little nuggets of revelation, but it didn't seem to answer my question. But when I started to fast on a regular basis, that's when things started coming. That's when the prophetic words started flooding me. And now I understand now that there are two main things that are standing in my way. Or rather, yeah, there are two things that's blocking God from him to kind of mold me and shape me the way he wants me to, so I can be used the way that I desire to. Typically, it's the fear of man and the fear of the unknown. The fear of man / timidity or fear overall is because I am, and just being transparent, I am pretty much, I guess, afraid of what people would think once I start moving on those things. Like, for instance, I'm praying that God would use me at any moment's notice, but if I have a fear of man, you know, you see how those things can kind of just clash. God won't be able to use me the way he wants me to if I have that fear and if I'm timid all the time, which I hate being timid, but that's another topic. For the fear of the unknown, with my over planning, over analyzing, overthinking self, I want to know everything before I even do it. That's not going to work with God. So those two things, overall, it's me. I'm standing in my own way. I'm standing in God's way. So God revealed to me pretty much over time that self is in God's way. So I know that I have to fast more vigorously to die to self so that I can live for God. So I said all that to say the reason why I'm fasting is to pretty much to die to self. I'm standing in the way of God. I'm in God's way for him to use me the way he wants to. So that is why I fast. So, yeah. And overall, I don't want to struggle with these things in 2018. Like, I want this stuff to die and end here in 2017. So I'm being more intentional and more focused in these last, 60-something days? Yeah. In these last 62 days, I believe. I think I'm doing the math right. But anyway, I'm not carrying fear and self into 2018. I'm sick of it. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move forward. So this is the reason why I choose to fast on a weekly basis. And I'm not pushing that on y'all. You guys I'll pretty much give you guys instructions on Friday. I'm kind of jumping the gun, but I'm going to initiate Fast Fridays where I'm going to have you guys choose between you and God. You guys choose your own, I guess, choose the way you guys would have to fast. But I'll give you guys more details on that on Friday. But that's the reason why I fast on a regular basis. Like, self is standing in the way, and self needs to die. Self needs to get out of God's way and out of my way as well. So I just wanted to share that with you guys to encourage you, to let you guys know that sometimes you need to add fasting in your lifestyle, especially if you desire to do certain things for God. And the bare minimums, they're not going to cut it. You're going to have to sacrifice a little bit more. You're going to have to push a little more. You're going to have to. It requires beyond the bare minimum. So that is it that I have today. Tomorrow is prayer. Wednesday, I will go over the various types of fast. For those of you guys who don't know, I will go over what to expect physically when you fast, because for those of us that are addicted to sugar, it's going to be heck. I was going to let y'all know that, but I want to let you guys know what to expect and to kind of how to prepare yourself physically for fasting, so it won't be like your body is screaming at you and cursing you out. So I hope you guys have a blessed Monday, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 7 a.m. Periscope, I seem to be doing okay with you guys at 7, but tomorrow it may be the afternoon. You'll find out soon enough. So you guys have a blessed day.